Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Grounded with John Tester and Maritza Giorgio on this Tuesday morning, July 7th. How you doing, Senator?
Well, my balers broke down.
Oh, gosh.
I'm gonna tell you the honest to God truth. This baler's not exactly young. It's seen better days. And I called up a guy I know that works for a dealership, and I said, "Hey, I'd like to trade this baler off and get a newer one. Not a new one, a newer one, because it's seen better days." And ever since I made that call, I've had 2 belts that need repair. The round bale has 7 belts on it that go around, make a 5-foot bale that's 6 foot tall. And then I had a bearing go out. So now I've evidently the baler's pissed off at me because it just keeps doing things that aren't right. So now I got to get my grandson and my son and a tractor, and we got to try to put a new shaft in, has new bearings in it. So it's the life of a farmer. But the truth is that
Dang.
I should be on the baler right now, but I'm not. I'm waiting for people to show up to go to work on the one I got, and then whatever else may this afternoon, depending on what the weather does. So,
Is that you asking me nicely to come fix your baler?
oh, if you want to come fix my baler, I would love to take video of that and put it on this. I would love. I'll take all the video. I'll just sit back and run the camera, and you can show me how to do it and show everybody else, and we'll put it on this podcast. I think it would be absolutely great. Yeah.
All right, I'll raise you one. I would love to see you figure out how to put the video on this podcast or anywhere online for that matter.
I used to have people that work for me that know how to do that, so I can get a hold of them
Mm,
and they'll do it for me. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I am not the most tech savvy person in the world. Well, sometimes that works out. I got an invite from a former employee of mine that used to work in the State Department. Now he works over on the House side for an invite to something. And I tried to open it and it says, "This invite wants to change your computer." And don't do that. So I threw it away and I sent him a text that says, "Can't open the invite." And he said,
No invite.
"Malware got into my computer. Don't open it again." So,
That happened to me. I opened an invitation and it said it was from Mark Roscoe. Was not from Mark Roscoe. Same thing happened to me. That's the new thing going around. Be careful out there,
well,
folks.
I don't like going to parties anyway. So I just,
Okay, so today we have for you, we have a guest. I'm really excited to talk to him. His name is Rich Logis, and he founded this organization called Leaving MAGA. He was a diehard member of MAGA, not just like a loyalist, like he was a pundit. And so we're going to talk to him all about this and some new projects he's working on. But let's do a couple headlines before he joins us. How's that sound?
that sounds good. Rock and roll, Miss Journalist.
Okay, so here's the deal. The president is in Turkey for a NATO summit this week. Already this morning, he met with Turkish President Erdogan. It's expected that Trump is going to tell Erdogan that the U.S. is going to restore the country's ability to buy these F-35 fighter jets, stealth fighter jets. Trump himself banned Turkey from being able to buy them in the first administration, the first term. Now, bipartisan lawmakers pushing back heavily on this. The Wall Street Journal's editorial board warned that this would give Russia and China a window into our technology. And I should mention, my family in Greece, my dad is a news hound there, and they're very concerned about this because of the land disputes between Turkey and Greece. All of this comes as NATO allies say they're getting warnings from the CIA about a potential Russian escalation, basically to test NATO's response. And I learned about this in the same hour I learned that the president had a 90-minute phone call with Vladimir Putin on July 4th. So, take it away.
Well, once again, a really bad decision. I would call it really, really, really idiotic. But the truth is, and I mean this, a normal president would not be doing this. Um, it shows you how his mental capacity has deteriorated since the first and second term. We're seeing it all the time, by the way, in his actions, wanting to be patted on the back and he wants this and wants that. He's pissed off because the weather's bad, so he doesn't have his party like it was planned. All that reverts back to what a little kid would do, and that's what happens when you get older. You revert back to being a little child if you start to lose your mind, and he has lost his mind. And this is another prime example of something that is incredibly dangerous, I might add, that he's doing to the country. It makes me ask, I wonder if Turkey's given the Trump family a bunch of money. That's why they're doing it. But the truth is I think it's just bad, bad, bad mental capacity. And I don't know that this country can stand another 2 years of this kind of leadership that's in the White House right now because it's getting more corrupt every day.
Well, you know that there is a development called Trump Towers Istanbul.
Well, I didn't know that. That's news to me. I don't really keep track of the Trump family's business dealings. I have a hard enough time staying ahead of mine. But the truth is that, and that's farm. That's Balin Hay, by the way, when I have a breakdown. But the truth is this is really bad. Erdogan is not a good person. Going to give stealth technology to the Chinese and to the Russians, absolutely, and everybody else, the Iranians and everybody else, and North Koreans. And this is, I would normally say, this isn't how you make America great again. No, this is how you destroy America, quite frankly. This is really, really, really bad. You ought to listen to that bipartisan group of senators because this is really, really, really a dangerous, dangerous, dangerous decision.
Okay, so let's talk about one senator in particular this morning getting a lot of attention, a lot of really questions about what is happening because there's increasing concern about Senator Mitch McConnell. He's been hospitalized now for 3 weeks. His aides won't say why. He was first admitted June 14th. It's creating a vacuum, too, Senator, for just rampant misinformation and rumor. Like so many people are floating all kinds of ideas and theories about what's possibly happening. Um, the most recent statement from his office said that basically he appreciates the outpouring of support while he continues his recovery in the hospital. What do you think? What's going on?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty well documented that he had a heart attack and then was hauled off. Mitch has not been good in shape since I was in the Senate, which has been nearly 2 years ago now. So it's been longer than that. Age has caught up with him, like it does with so many people. Some people, they lose it physically. Other people lose it mentally. Um, and Mitch, Mitch has done a lot of stuff that I have not agreed with in a huge way, starting with the Supreme Court, going with impeachment, and right down the line. But the truth is that he is a senator from Kentucky, and I think I do believe that they owe the people of Kentucky, not me, not you, but the people,
Mhm.
an explanation of what's going on because a seat in the Senate's important, and
Especially right now.
thank
Especially
you.
right now.
And Mitch is, I mean, look, if Mitch is getting ready to check out, and I don't know that he is, but I don't know that he's not, then they ought to be giving a heads up to people, and maybe they have that this is the case, so they can, get somebody in there to replace him as quickly as possible if that's where it's headed. On the other side of the coin, um, and this is going to sound weird to some of the people out here listening to this, but I wish Senator McConnell well, and I hope that he has a recovery so he can live the rest of his life at least in some level of.
I don't think that sounds weird. I think
Well,
it can.
and look, what he did on the Supreme Court is almost unforgivable, if not unforgivable, quite frankly. And what he did not voting for impeachment when he said, "Oh, the courts will take care of it," that's bullshit. That's abandoning your job as a U.S. senator. But nonetheless, I don't wish ill on anybody for sure.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Okay, I have two more headlines, but our guest is here. So I'm gonna do one quickly with you and then we'll do the last one after our chat. But the calls are getting louder this morning for Democratic Senate candidate Graham Plattner to withdraw from the race. So here's what happened. he's running for Senate in Maine. And this comes after a woman who dated him says he sexually assaulted her. It was first in Politico. Then she did an interview with CNN last night. Soon after that, Dems just across the board started clawing back endorsements, saying he should drop out. Our pal Joyce White Vance published something important, I think. And she said that this story reveals the difference between the parties because when a candidate who's accused of sexually abusing women seeks public office, it doesn't matter what party he's in, he should be out. Now, Plattner says he's taking time to reflect. He denies the allegations. He has until Monday to drop out or he will stay on the ballot.
Yeah, well, so Joyce Vance Wright is right, by the way. I don't know if it's true or not, but Graham Plattner knows if it's true. And if it's true, it ain't going away. I'm just going to tell you, it ain't going away. Graham Plattner, if you're listening to this or any of your supporters are, if this is true, and I'm not saying it is, but if it's true and you know whether it's true, it's
Get out.
it's going to get worse. There
Yeah.
are no secrets in politics. I'm telling you, there are none. And so, got to realize that. Can't cover this up. Can't roll it under. It's not going to go away if it is true. If it's not true and somebody paid her some money to do this, that's a different story. But the bottom line is the only person that knows this at this moment in time is Graham Plattner. And if it's true, he needs to get out. If it's not true, you better have some evidence to show that it's not true or you are fucked. And that's a
Yeah.
fact.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, and I appreciate Joyce's words there. It doesn't matter what they believe in and what their parties are and what their ideals are and their political stances. Uh, this kind of credible accusation is just not okay. It doesn't matter who you are. And I will just note, I did see something. You know who just really doesn't have accusations like this against them in a broad-based fashion every single week.
Mitch McConnell.
I was gonna say women.
Oh, oh, women. Oh, you were talking generally. I thought you were talking.
Just generally. Okay, so that's my little jab here. I want to pivot though because we have with us today. I'm excited for this conversation. We want to welcome to Grounded. I'm going to bring him on screen. Rich Logis. He's the founder of the nonprofit group Leaving MAGA. Welcome, Rich. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Maritza, good morning, and good to see you. And Senator, good to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you too, Rich. I was gonna ask you if you were still wearing red hats, but it's pretty obvious you're still wearing red hats, man.
Yeah, we need to reclaim the red hats back from MAGA. They should not be able to own the red hat brand.
I agree 100%. I happen to like red hats, and here a few years ago, like 5 years ago, I have wear I was going back to DC, and I put on a nice red hat, and people on the plane were really looking at me pretty weird. You know,
Yeah.
Oh,
Montana's pretty red, and finally, a guy that I know stopped me. So, what's the deal with the red hat? And I said, "Well, I should have wore a blue one." Really? And he goes, "No, it's the red hat." And I went, "Oh shit. Okay,
oh.
I get it. Okay, all right." But it was actually advertising an airplane service, by the way. So it had nothing to do with politics whatsoever. It was red, and
Well, Rich, did I say your last name correctly? I realized I just assumed I knew how to say it.
Yeah, Logis, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Where
So,
are you from, Rich? Where are you from?
So I'm a New Yorker originally, but I've been in Florida since 2012.
Oh, where it's
ooh,
nice and cold this time of year.
Yeah, I'm right, exactly. Frigid and chilly. I live in South Florida. Been here since November 2012, and I miss New York sometimes. When I first moved here, I didn't, but I don't miss the New York winters. But Florida is a state that is very. I always say that Florida is the MAGA capital of America.
I think that you are onto something. Having just returned from Florida recently, yes.
Other states want to vie for that title, but I think everyone's playing for second. I think Florida is the MAGA capital. We've got the president who's got his home away from home here. We've got a governor who's fancied himself as another type Trump figure. We've got Don Trump Jr. who's down here. The west coast of Florida is very
Yeah.
MAGA. Yeah, I think we're the capital here.
And I do wanna say, I think that, like, every single just wild, unhinged news story I've ever read is always happening in Florida, like, crazy, crazy stories. But I do want to ask you, because I know you've told your story a lot. You're a married father, you're a small business owner, and up until 2022, a MAGA loyalist, and not just like a loyalist, like a very engaged activist. You were a pundit, you had a podcast. Now, you've said it took a year of an emotionally wrenching struggle to get to the other side. So, for our viewers who are just getting introduced to you, I'm wondering if you'll tell that story a little bit for us.
Sure. And let me just thank you again for having me. And let me preface by apologizing, as I always like to, for my past MAGA activism. Um, in 2015, I was somebody who was very politically lonely. I was an independent. I believed that both parties had been the same. I felt that democracy had failed most people and that most elected officials cared more so about their donors and the wealthy and the powerful. And even though Trump ran as a Republican and came from that world of wealth and influence, I was very attracted to his outsider status without any government, military, or political experience. And I was very seduced and enticed by the burn it all down ethos of his campaign. And I decided to work on the campaign. I wrote part of the call script for the campaign. I recruited people to vote for Trump. I recruited Bernie Sanders voters to support Trump. And after the 2016 election, I got deeper and deeper into the community. I professionally produced a podcast. I was writing for MAGA media. I had bylines in places like Fox and The Federalist. I spoke at Trump groups. I was a donor at Trump groups. I worked on the 2020 campaign. I donated to the 2020 campaign. I was somebody who was very unapologetically public in my support for Trump and MAGA. But it was in the summer of 21 when my doubts commenced and some of the cracks started to form. And it was actually not Donald Trump who was the first accelerant to my leaving. It was my governor, Ron DeSantis. In the summer of 21, if we remember, that's when the Delta surge was ravaging the country of the COVID virus, and kids were getting sick, kids were dying from the virus. And Ron DeSantis platformed COVID anti vaxxers at one of his press conferences. And as a father of two small kids, it really shocked and confused me why he did that, considering that he had been a proponent of the vaccine. So after that happened, I did something that sounds very simple, but was profoundly life altering and changing for me, which was I diversified my news and information sources. And after I did that, I started to slowly realize that so much of what I believed had turned out to be false. And I went through what I call, I've got a memoir that came out this year called One Betrayal Too Many. And in the book, there's a chapter called My Year of Heaven and Hell. I went through an entire year of personal tumult and turmoil, grappling with the fact that I had created an entire identity and persona based on lies, falsehoods, and conspiracy theories. And the final straw for me was May 24th, 2022, which was the day of the Uvalde, Texas school shooting. And I'm a firearm owner. I have a concealed carry permit. I'm a believer in the Second Amendment. And even though Trump wasn't in office, I knew exactly how he and the GOP would respond to Uvalde, and they did as I anticipated, which was calling for more guns and more access to guns. So it was on that day that I quietly left MAGA. But there had been something that had really been gnawing at me, doing it privately because I had always been so public in my support for Trump and MAGA. I decided that I wanted to go public in my renunciation of MAGA. And on August 30th, 2022, which I call my Leaving MAGA versary, I wrote a mea culpa. And in that apology, I repudiated my support for Trump and MAGA, and I wanted to apologize to anyone I may have hurt with my words, deeds, and rhetoric. And the God's honest truth is that I never actually thought that anybody would care after I decided to leave, but it turned out that people did care. And after I wrote that apology, I had friends and family of those in MAGA reach out to me very desperately, trying to figure out how to salvage their strained relationships. So born from all of that came our organization, Leaving MAGA. We're now in our third year. We have never been busier. And what we founded this organization to be is a new community and a way for people to exit and leave behind MAGA extremism. We now have over 3 dozen leaders who have left. Um, our fundraising has never been higher. Our media engagement has never been higher. We have a billboard campaign that we've run across the country. And actually, Senator, we've got a billboard that's going to be going up in Basin, Montana for an entire year coming up soon. And we've got other locations that we're putting up billboards. And as a result of these boards, something that's happening that I want to share with everyone is that we have more people than ever who are in MAGA reaching out to us, asking us for help leaving. So our work we wish it were happening faster, but our team is dedicated to creating that off ramp for people who are confused and questioning their belief system the way that I did, so we can give them an out to walk away from MAGA.
Well, I would just, I'll start by just saying I'm a big believer in billboards. I really am. There was a billboard outside of Helena, Montana, which isn't far from Basin, by the way. That's right on I-90. That was up for a while during Trump's first term, and it showed the United States of America, the lower 48, tip sideways, and on the top it says, "I fell down and I can't get up." And that billboard was up for a little while, and then it was covered up very, very quickly. So
Mm.
I think billboards could be incredibly important. But you said something that I think is very instructive for people. By the way, both on the left and the right. And that is, you said you diversified your news sources and you found out that a lot that you believed wasn't necessarily correct. Who gave you the idea to do that? Because a lot of people just watch one news source and that's it. That's all they watch and that's all they believe. When in fact, I think diversifying news sources is really, really, really important. Really important
For everybody,
for everybody.
for everybody.
Yeah.
So,
I consider myself very fortunate that I never fully lost my curiosity. My first job out of college was as a newspaper reporter, and it's true that the flame of my curiosity had been a flicker during MAGA when I was in MAGA, but it never fully extinguished itself. And in an odd kind of way, I have Ron DeSantis to thank for that, for prompting me to go and start to expand my news sources outside of the MAGA media that I was consuming. And as I write in my memoir, I believe that there had been mostly Democrats, who were coming for our guns and trying to turn America into a socialist country, and that there was a they trying to abridge my rights and indoctrinate my children and persecute Christians. And as I started to integrate non-MAGA media sources into my media diet, I realized that that wasn't true, that there wasn't a they who were coming for me. There were not devilish liberals behind every tree and progressives trying to replace white people with brown people and foreigners. And it was really a reckoning that I had to go through, where I had to acknowledge to myself that I made a mistake and that I had allowed myself to believe all these lies and had created content around it and podcasted based on these lies and wrote articles based on these falsehoods and conspiracy theories. And when people read our stories of those who left at our website at leavingmaga.org, what they will discover in a lot of these stories is that others also on their pathway to leaving MAGA they also diversified their news and information sources. And I'll say this also as part of something I realized after leaving. I came to better understand that there has been a multi-decade coordinated effort to dehumanize, vilify, and demonize Democrats, liberals, progressives, and leftists, etc. And this propaganda and agitprop has been very effective. It's been very coordinated. It's been very consistent, and it's been very disciplined. It's why, for example, when I look back on it, I thought that if Hillary had won in 2016, that was going to be the end of America. To say that now, it's so irrational and delusional, but it's what I believed at the time. And I didn't realize that I had, and I'm not saying this as a defense, but I didn't realize until leaving MAGA that I had succumbed and fallen prey to this propaganda that has existed for years on the right wing. And MAGA media, it's very lucrative for those figures and influencers because as they keep us all divided, they distract us from the fact that I believe that one of the tenets that makes America a good country because of good people is that we actually agree more than we disagree. I do believe that, and that's part of the pathway of leaving MAGA is to build up democracy rather than tear it down. And the way that we do that, in our definition, is we make the continued case that we are more alike than we are unalike. And if you got a pro MAGA and anti MAGA person together and they had a long enough conversation, they would discover that they actually share a lot of the same hopes, dreams, and fears and concerns. But it's when you're only consuming one type of news source, what it does is it feeds, in my case, MAGA media fed my addictions to rage and fear. I was always outraged at somebody or something, some group, because I was addicted to fear and rage. And what MAGA media does is it affirms and reinforces that fear and that rage. It's why, for example, no one watches Fox News to be educated or enlightened or informed. They do it because it fuels that addiction to rage and fear. So when you diversify your news sources, that addiction starts to lessen more and more over time.
So let me ask you, I know that one part of your program, I'm gonna put up your home screen here. Your homepage talks about fostering reconciliation with friends and family, and I'm wondering what that looks like. Like, what does that look like with you? But also, um, what would you tell somebody who has a family member deep in MAGA right now? Like, what's the one thing you would tell them to do or not to do, and to do it in a way that doesn't alienate but actually gets to a level of understanding.
Sure. So actually, every Tuesday night, our organization hosts a free online support group for those who have friends and relatives still in the thrall of MAGA. And what we do at these support groups is we provide the tools that people need to better navigate their relationships with their MAGA identified close friend or loved one. And there's a lot of emphasis on self-care, a lot of emphasis on nonviolent language. And something else that we do is we relieve attendees of the pressure of feeling like they can change their MAGA friend or relative because no one can change another person. The change has to come from the
Within.
person, the individual from within. But something that we talk a lot about at the support groups and just as our work overall in terms of finding reconciliation is that people are moved by emotions, not by facts, not by policy. And I encourage those who are seeing this who have MAGA friends and relatives who probably understandably are very exacer exas exas
Exacerbated.
exasperated,
Exacerbated, yeah.
exacerbated and frustrated over their relationships. But I would encourage them to again extend a bit of an olive branch and try to take some time to understand why someone might be a MAGA Trump supporter right now, because that understanding enables us to also figure out where they're getting their news and information sources from. And there's something that we talk about at Leaving MAGA called information bartering. And what that is
Mhm.
it's an agreement where the person in MAGA will provide something, some piece of their media that they read or listen to, if they'll listen to something that a friend or relative provides. And it's not to change the mind of the other person, but it's designed to expand one's information aperture and give them alternative information that maybe can get them thinking about an issue differently from how they normally think about it. And I've tried this, and sometimes it's succeeded, sometimes it hasn't. But our attendees at our support group have done this with some of their friends and loved ones, and they've seen how people's responses to information that they were unaware of sometimes are actually very positive. So we encourage people to approach their loved ones with empathy. Um, I'm not defending, again, anyone's ignorance, including my own, but I emphasize this point that everyone is susceptible to being influenced. And I believe that those who are in MAGA have been led astray and that they had some good reasons for supporting Trump, because what MAGA provides is that community. It provides the feelings of gathering and belonging and camaraderie. And that's really hard to replicate on the side of democracy, but MAGA has provided that community. And even though I think that there were some good reasons to support Trump, I don't think those reasons are applicable any longer. But I would really encourage people who are seeing this to approach with love and care and empathy and take the time to reach back out and try to figure out why it is that they support Trump and try to get a better understanding and then try to find from there that commonality, that common ground that I talk about that shows that we agree, I believe, more than we disagree.
Yeah, so let me go 180 degrees off from empathy, okay? And I want you to go back to what you were when you were, wearing the red hats that said, "Make America Great Again." And that is, tell me what the thought process is for a MAGA Republican, and by the way, I live in rural America, I live in rural Montana, where it is very MAGA, where the president has put tariffs on that have done real bad things for agriculture and Main Street businesses, where the president has advocated for policies that have really taken away from healthcare across the board, but particularly in rural America, where the president's advocated for reducing costs, and he didn't reduce costs, where he advocated for not getting into wars and got into a war in Iran, where he's advocated for reducing the swamp and, quite frankly, has made the swamp much, much, much bigger. Tell me, if you can think back to when 10 years ago, what would you what would you say to somebody who said that to you as a MAGA, "Make America Great Again" person?
Well, for me personally, Senator, before I had my doubts, I would have defended the president because I was an all in sycophant for the MAGA movement. So that would have been before my cracks started to form. I would have found a way. I would have twisted myself into a logic pretzel to have defended the president. But I think now, with what's happening in the country, and this is what I think this is some good news that I want to bring. I'm not the most I'm not the most celebrant of a Catholic, but there's a quote from the book of Isaiah that I like to cite, which is to bring good news to the afflicted. I think there are more people than ever right now who are in MAGA who are starting to have doubts. I think there are more than we realize who have quietly left. I think there are more than we realize who are privately doubting and questioning their belief system. It's why I would encourage people to reach back out to their MAGA friends and loved ones, because their friends and loved ones might be going through some doubts right now. might be experiencing some of the cognitive dissonance that I did when there's a conflict between someone's sincerely held beliefs and what their own eyes are showing them. So I think that this is an opportunity for us to do more outreach to people in MAGA areas, which is where Leaving MAGA is increasing our efforts exponentially into red areas, because that's where we're going to find the people. We're going to find the highest share of people who are having those doubts. And I think that most people in MAGA deep down know that something is amiss in the country. I think more people in MAGA are realizing that Trump is a dishonest broker and that he is not an honest person, and that, yes, it's true that most politicians will exaggerate and sometimes even tell a lie. No one does it with the breadth, depth, and frequency by which the president does. And I think people in MAGA are starting to understand this.
I think it's important to like an important note here that it's not about from what I'm hearing, Rich, it's not about like, oh, you have to change all of your politics or your beliefs. You
No.
know, you can't like this isn't about like you can't be conservative. It's just about this specific ideology and what it's led to. And I'm wondering, like, do you keep count? Do you have metrics? Like, are you noticing bursts of growth in reaction to certain policies? Like, how do you track that?
Yeah, the tariffs, the war of choice in Iran, the Epstein files. I spend a lot of time online. I am terminally online, and I am finding more and
I'm
more
so
attempts.
sorry. That sounds terrible. I'm so sorry.
It's a necessary evil for us, because it's how we find people who have gone public in telling their Leaving MAGA story, and then they become a part of our community. And I'm seeing more and more accounts than ever who are talking about no longer supporting the president. I'm not talking about the high profile ones like Tucker Carlson. I mean people who are, our neighbors, people who are just our regular fellow Americans. But I think it's also important to distinguish what Leaving MAGA really looks like, because as part of the work that we do, we don't believe that distancing oneself from the president is enough. To truly leave, you have to renounce the lies, falsehoods, and conspiracy theories of MAGA politics. And when I look at someone like Tucker Carlson or Margie Taylor Greene, or a Candace Owens, someone like that, I don't believe that I'm always happy when the president loses a supporter, but I don't think that they have left MAGA. But I will keep an open mind to it, because if they ever did, and they did it sincerely, then I would consider them welcome at our community. But we do track the number of people who are contacting us who are in MAGA. That number is higher than it's ever been, for people who are telling us that they're feeling confused and that they want to leave MAGA, but they're not sure what to do. And that's where we come in, because we're the place that people can go to. We're the off ramp. We're the new destination. We're the new community where people can find others who went through similar odysseys of leaving, and find a place where they can reclaim their identity, their empathy, and their individuality with us.
I've put this up on the screen, but for people listening, there's a whole section of your website of They Left MAGA where you can actually read people's accounts and stories, and it's incredible. Like, I read through a few of them last night. They're incredible.
Yeah, and those are our brave leaders, intrepid, courageous people who decided that they wanted to go public. In giving witness to their testimony, they felt like if they go public, it might empower others to go public, and it's worked. We continue to increase the number of testimonials. We have more that are on the way. We have others who participate in media with us, people who are taking on leadership roles to help others leave MAGA. So I'm very proud of the success that we've had. I don't take any credit for it. It is truly a team effort. One of the efforts coming up will be in Montana. We recently received a grant from Miles and Xander over at Defiance to do work in Montana, and I'm hoping that I'm hoping that the both of you might be able to help us figure out where we can start on that, because we are looking to get very much into the mix in Montana as we approach the midterms. So our work is resonating as we build our community. Ultimately, I want people to know, who are going to hear this, who might be in MAGA and they're having doubts, that they're not alone, and that I know what they're going through, but that they have a place to come home to with us.
So my suggestion would be make sure there's a website up on your billboards. Make sure you've got somebody in your organization, if it's not you, somebody that knows how to digitally touch people that are, for the most part, persuadable. There's some people that aren't, but you probably should look at it that everybody's persuadable. And then that's what I would proceed with. Let me ask you another question. I led off this thing talking about wearing a red hat on an airplane. You're in South Florida. Do you wear that hat when you go out? And what's the response?
You know, I usually I'm usually not wearing it. I do wear it to political events, and I get a lot of side eye when I wear it to the political events. But that's only until someone sees it, and I see them in the corner of their eye looking at me like this. But then when they look at the front of it and they say, "Oh, okay, that's okay."
And for our listening friends, he's wearing a red hat that says, "I left MAGA."
I left
Doesn't
that.
say "Make America Great Again." It says, "I
Yeah,
left MAGA."
yeah, I left.
Um, so I have a few questions. I know you need to go, but we're happy to talk this through with you. Are you coming to Montana, specifically you, Rich?
We have myself, and we've also got a community manager. It's a role that we just created, actually. So again, it's part of our growth plan here, that we've added a new position. But we can come out there, as part of the work with Defiance. I imagine that we're going to need to be out there physically. So myself, our community manager, if we need to come out there, then we'll do that.
Okay. Well, we have a question in the chat. This is from Jennifer. She asks, is part of your organization's goal to help people learn where to find alternative information and how to recognize when they're only hearing the funneled message?
I have a phrase that I use. I call us the United States of algorithms. And I think that if we remember the fact that our information that we're seeing online tends to be driven by the algorithm that we are used to seeing, then it means that we're only getting one type of information. So when I expanded my news sources, I started consuming what people would call legacy or mainstream media, your New York Times, your Washington Post, your Atlantic, AP, PBS. This is standard journalistic companies who are doing journalism. They're not influencers, they're news and opinion. USA Today, I was as a reporter, um, I found myself consuming daily newspaper content. So I think for people who are thinking right now, maybe I should diversify my news and information sources. Just remember that if you're getting most of your information from online, that news and information has been shaped by the algorithm that you're consuming, and that you have to look outside of online sources to get a more diverse assortment of news and information.
Senator, yeah. Go ahead.
Just one last question before we let him go. I know you're not a prognosticator, but maybe you are. Any predictions on the election? Do you think that people will show up and their votes actually will count? Number one. Number two, do you think they'll show up and say, we've really had enough of this and we'd like to have some common sense put back into the arena?
I've gotten some prognostications correct in the past, and I've been correct, and I've been very incorrect on some past predictions. But for November, Senator, I think there is going to be an electoral revolt against MAGA. I think
Um,
I think there's going to be. I think people who are apolitical are so frustrated and disgusted with what's happening coming from the White House, coming from the Republican Party, the fact that Congress is essentially an irrelevant body right now, well, from the Republican Party. And full disclosure, I'm a registered independent, but I did vote Democratic in November of 24. I'm going to vote Democratic again this election. Our leaders at our Leaving MAGA community, even the ones who still identify as Republican and conservative, they're going to vote Democratic as well in November. But I think there's going to be, I think there's going to be a massive turnout against Trump and MAGA in the Republican Party in November.
Well,
Rich, we went past your time, but I kind of want to bring you. I want to bring you in for this last headline. If you have 5 minutes, do you have
sure,
5 more? Or do you need
sure.
to leave? Okay, because I think this is important. So there's this headline I was going to get to, um, but there's a New York man who is now suing DHS because the feds tried to track him down and give him a warning over a harsh email he wrote to former acting ICE Director Todd Lyons. They showed up on his porch last month. They said that he potentially violated the law for writing this email. So this nonprofit group filed a suit on his behalf saying his email is protected speech. But this isn't the first time. And you'll remember, Senator, we talked about this last year. Or I'm sorry, it was just earlier this year. It feels like last year when this Pennsylvania man, a retiree, emailed the DHS attorney asking them to have mercy on an asylum seeker. And then the DHS subpoenaed his accounts. Investigators showed up at his home. So the reason I'm asking you about this, Rich, is that there is a fear out there. If somebody just writes an email, that all of a sudden the feds are on their doorstep. So what do you say to people who say, I listen, I have my doubts, but I'm afraid to come forward. I'm afraid to do these things that you're talking about.
You
By the
know,
way,
and
there's a lot of them too. By the way, there's a lot of them that feel that fear.
yeah, and I completely understand feeling that fear. I think though that everyone is capable of of courage. I think that everyone is capable of being courageous, and it's maybe on one hand it's easy for me to say, but on the other hand, I think that people have to speak up because the less speaking up there is, more all of us potentially get ensnared in these efforts of retaliation. And that's one of the reasons why Trump ran for reelection. It wasn't to govern, it was to stay out of prison and to exact revenge on his political opponents. And he surrounded himself with people are who have made that a reality. Whether we're talking against colleges or law firms or against just citizens who are expressing their freedom of speech. So I do sympathize with being afraid, but we would encourage people to find it within themselves to speak up, because speaking up is how eventually we reverse this tide. And if Democrats take over in November, which I believe that they will, they're going to need to get to work, and people are going to elect them based on issues of affordability. And I think that there's going to be also, I think people are seeing, Maritza, these kinds of stories as well, and they want to put an end to them. And this is where the Democrats will have to be on offense and not defense. As the governing party, they can start to change and reverse the tide of these kinds of stories. So yes, it's a frightening time, but what I know about Americans is that when we're in a crisis situation in our history, Americans have risen to the occasion. I think that that's going to happen in November again.
Well, thanks, Rich. Thanks for being on. Thanks for what you do. If you get to Montana, let us know. And even if you need some advice on, it's free, so it'll be worth every penny you pay for it. If you need advice on stuff, we'd be more than happy to. I think it's really important. I mean, look, early on, you said diversify news source. I just think that is so damn important. I know many, many people who believed one thing when they started watching Fox Entertainment, and they just totally flipped. They believed everything they heard, which I mean, it's not good. By the way, and it's the same thing the other side too. You just got to diversify. It's really important. So thanks for being on. I appreciate what you're doing. I know it can't be easy, but it's important.
Thank you, Maritza. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate you having
Thank
me. And I'll be in touch.
you.
I'll be in touch about coming to Montana.
That sounds good. And make sure you go check out the Substack page that Rich runs. We call it Leaving MAGA. Also, their website, leavingmaga.org. Thanks so much, Rich. I hope you have a good day.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I knew that would be a good conversation. I could talk to him for so long. I have so many questions, but I'll have to just bug him when he comes to Montana.
That'd be great. I mean, that'd be cool. I mean, I think there's a number of things that he said that were particularly important. And I think when he started out talking about how both parties weren't giving him the kind of feeling that he wanted, and Trump looked like the outsider. Unfortunately, if you look at Trump's history, it's what he's doing now is a direct reflection of what he did when he was in business, and the people in New York City will tell you that. He just is led around by people who, quite frankly, are not good people. But he put him in the cabinet. He put him as chief of staff, and now you got to deal with it. As the guy starting to lose his mental capacity.
All right. Well, we need to talk about your hat. Is there anything else we need to talk about?
I might have wore this hat before. This is
Yeah, you did.
USS Montana.
Billings.
Yeah, USS Billings. I'm sorry, Montana's a submarine. This is Billings. This is a littoral combat ship that my wife is a sponsor of. But when I reached in the bag and pulled it out, I didn't know I had two of them. So now I've got two of them. So I wore it twice. But it's all right. Giving the USS Montana a plug always is a good thing. So
That must be so embarrassing for you to be seen wearing the same thing twice.
yeah, well, it's particularly embarrassing because I know if I would have said it, I probably wore it twice, you would have pointed it out. So
I don't know. My mental sharpness is
yeah,
not.
but I think you need to tell people what you're doing this week because it doesn't look like your house you're in.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I am in Washington, D.C., and I got here yesterday. Thank goodness the really, really hot heat wave broke. But I am here filling in for Scripps News this week again with my old pals at Scripps News. So I'll be on this afternoon and every afternoon this week. And I'm trying to think if there's anything interesting. I do think I was thinking about this last night. Um, I was going to, doing my doom scrolling, bed rotting doom scrolling on my phone through Instagram and seeing all kinds of 4th of July posts. And I did notice something. Rich talked about, kind of just seeing so many people out there leaving or maybe not outwardly displaying their love of MAGA like they once had. And I did notice there's a party that happens every year that I see online on social media, a group of people I know who um, have previously displayed a lot of red MAGA hats. And I didn't see one in this group photo this year of I don't know, probably 70 people. And usually it's a field of red. So I don't know if that's just a coincidence or if it's indicative of something else.
It's just hard to say what's going on out there because we're not. I mean, you are, but I mean, I spend my time on a tractor. Uh, some people say I'm making a whole bunch of money, and so. But if I'm making money, what the hell am I doing on a baler that's broke down that's 35 years old? But that aside, um, that by the way, we take all subscriptions to our Substack because that'll help me buy a new baler. Okay, so,
That's right. Yeah.
but
We actually do depend on that. Yeah.
exactly right. But But the bottom line is, I know people can't be happy about the war in Iran in particular, but what's going on with tariffs and what's going on in the healthcare thing. I mean, we saw 5, 6 million people get off healthcare. A friend of mine called me and says, I'm not going to have health insurance now because the Republicans did not. They're looking for you. The
Can you
Republicans,
hear that?
yeah, I can hear it. The Republicans did not fund the Affordable Care Act. So now people are going to be going without insurance. That's more charity care. That's more hospital closures. Oh, it's a domino that goes down. So I can't help but think that people are not happy about what's going on. But I also think it's really hard for people to say, number one, who they voted for. Don't like doing that, including myself. And number two, that I was wrong, that I misread this. What Rich said, basically. I misread all this, and it's not right. And what's happening is not what I thought I voted for. It's really hard for people to admit that. I found one person that's actually admitted it. Um, and um, and so,
I I think
like,
it's great though. There's a something about that psychological aspect of it of feeling duped. And even talking at the beginning about the we were talking about the fake party invitations that turned out to be malware. And that doesn't feel good to admit you did that, right? Like, "Oh my gosh, I opened that." Like, it doesn't feel good to say, "Oh, that was not smart," or that wasn't I was totally tricked, and I fell for it." And I think we need to normalize that more about everything. We need to normalize that more. Like, it's okay. We are all human. We all have judgments and error. We all do things that we know we shouldn't have done, and it's okay to talk about it and be really open with it.
except for you and me, we're perfect.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
yeah, I mean, no, I mean, you're exactly right. But we will see what's going on. Some of the comments I'm talking about is what's going on with climate change. This is a prime example of somebody that doesn't have very good leadership skills. He shut down all renewable energy when he first got into office. Shut it down. Took it off the plate. The cheapest energy we can have. Now we're looking at folks who want to build stuff that takes energy. We don't have that. We got the Strait of Hormuz that Iran is controlling now that never controlled it before, which is all fossil-based fuel. So he does things empowering people who don't much like us anymore. And then when shit goes astray, he goes, I wonder why that happened. Not to mention the climate change impacts of all this. It is very, very negative. And if you don't believe me, just take a look around your neighborhood because it's impacted my neighborhood. It's got to be impacting yours too. Is it pretty cold in DC still, or it's still 100 degrees with 100% humidity?
It wasn't 100. It was warm though yesterday. Let me look at today. I think it's 75 already. It's going to be 86 today. But yeah, and there's more humidity than in Montana. But I'm not going to complain
86
because
like wintertime in DC. 86 is, yeah. Hey,
yeah, no, wasn't too bad. It's been pretty chilly in Montana too, and I didn't complain about that either because we need the rain and we need the cool. We'll stave off fire as much as we can. But yeah, yeah, it's a wild world out there, and I think like I get people are heightened, and the more we can bridge divides, be kind, you know, I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to aim for. It's not always easy, but we should aim for
true point. True point, Bill. True point.
it. That's my dad's name.
Really? Damn.
Well, that's his American version of his name. His Greek name is Vasilis. You tell me how they got Bill out of that.
Don't ask me how to spell it, okay?
That's right. All right.
I'm gonna go out and work on a baler. Is calling my
Yeah.
name.
Okay, but is it gonna be okay? You gonna get it fixed? Am I gonna see you baling hay today on a FaceTime call?
Here's the deal. I don't have a choice. I got to get the son of a bitch fixed. So it's gonna be fixed come hell or high water. So I just got to figure out what I need. I might need to use a loader tractor with a boom on it to try to lower. The piece weighs about 100 pounds and it's 5 feet long. So it's going to be hard to,
Oh, it's cumbersome.
and we're 12 feet off, or we're not 12 feet, we're 10 feet off the ground, 10, yeah, about 10 feet off the ground. So it's going to be difficult to get into place. But if I use a loader tractor with some cables, we can fit it between the belts. And
So you're saying if you hear any loud 4-letter words coming from the farm, the tester farm, that
Yeah, yeah.
it's going well.
I mean, look, that means things are going well. It's when there's blood involved that don't go well. So, all right.
All right. Well, I hope you have a good day and keep us updated. We want to thank so much our guest, Rich Logis of Leaving MAGA, for joining us. And we want to thank Pearl Jam for letting us use their music. We want to thank all of you who joined us both live and later on. And we will chat again soon.
All right. Tally ho.